the guy who runs that outfit over there.
He doesn't even know.
I want to make sure we thank the secretary for all he's done to try to implement what we just talked about, and for recommending these two women for promotion. Thank you all.
Now watch what happens
God
at the end
bless
here.
you all, and may God protect our troops.
Awkward. Where do I go? What do I do? Now watch the women that just, I guess, got a promotion in the military. Watch what happens here. They're hopping up and down, pumping their fists.
We've been listening to President Biden.
This reminds me of, I remember in grade school or with cousins or like in summer camps, the girls would always be into like ceremonies, and they do ceremonies, they do weddings and like award ceremonies and all this stuff. It was fun. They'd put on dress up, kids having fun. But it was just kids pretending to have ceremonies and kind of hopping up and down, celebrating. Yay, we just did a ceremony. Yay, we just simulated a ceremony. That's what this is like. These are arrested development adults that actually have never actually matured intellectually, and they're still simulating their entire life like it's some sort of a celebration of simulation. See? Pump their fists, jump up and down, and they all smile. We just did it. We just simulated a ceremony. Yay! I remember, for whatever reason, it was just every summer camp, like girls at recess in school, they loved simulating stuff. And it was always like award ceremonies or weddings. And it was just like that. They'd finish the ceremony, and they'd all kind of hop up and down and clap. It was cute. They were kids. This is real stuff. These are adults simulating ceremonies that are actually supposed to be real. But, let's just promote these women to the military as a ceremony, as a simulation of a ceremony, and then let's just celebrate it. Yay, we did it! We completed the ceremony! It's like, little girls at a summer camp will like do a fake wedding of like 2 stuffed animals or something, and they jump up and down. Yay, it's cute. No, this is like, they're actually doing it though. Oh, yay, here's the president. We simulated a presidential victory. Yay, hop up and down and wave. It's all fake. It's all child's play. But they're just puppets. But what is actually happening on the policy front? Now, Psaki is getting peppered with questions today about the crisis at the southern border. They're denying it's a crisis, even though they're now at over 100% capacity. They're now at over 100% capacity in these facilities. They're called reception centers now. But even the New York Times, in their story today covering this, and I don't have it on my desk because I was just reading it earlier, they admit that they have the kids in cages, and they say it's jail-like. That's in the New York Times. And the numbers are only going up. You had over 100%. So you had more than double the illegal border crossings in January 2020 to January 2021. Now February and March, it's going up even more. You're looking at it's going to be triple in April and May. It's going to be triple. They don't have the facilities. So they're just releasing them all into the country. No masks, test positive for COVID. Now, Jen Psaki doesn't have a clue what's going on. I don't even blame her. How are you supposed to reiterate or communicate the thoughts of a guy who can't think? So that's an impossible job. But there is a crisis at the southern border. They don't have the facilities, and they're putting kids in cages that they said that Trump was doing, that he wasn't. Oh, and also they have now removed the Bidens. They can't even properly take care of a dog. And so the Biden dogs have now been removed from the White House. So Biden can't even take care of a dog. And, well, there's other news coming out here. So let me just get into the stack. Yes, Joe Biden is not even the acting president. He's as much of a puppet as you've ever seen. Kamala Harris is taking a bigger role in forming U.S. foreign and national security policies. And she's fielding all of Biden's foreign diplomatic phone calls. So what is Biden really even doing during the day? 10 minutes of some sort of a speech, sign whatever executive order lands on his desk, doesn't even read it, admits he doesn't read it, and Harris is fielding his phone calls, and Pelosi's in charge of the military, the National Guard, and wants the nuclear codes. So Pelosi and Harris are essentially tag teaming the presidency right now, and Biden doesn't have a clue what's going on. And now you have a new book coming out, and I think this actually explains a lot. New book claims cranky Biden had a habit of yelling at young staffers during campaign. He's an old man. He can't think. He's confused. He's an elitist. He's lashing out. It's exactly what you would think. Kind of like you can see the energy of an Andrew Cuomo. You can feel the vibes he puts off. Now you know it. Yeah, he covered up the nursing home deaths. Yeah, he's a serial harasser of women. But now the Bidens can't even take care of a dog. Biden dogs banned from White House after aggressive behavior in biting incident. How much you want to bet? We'll see what really comes out about this. We probably never know. Apparently they have aggressive behavior. In their defense, German Shepherds are known to be aggressive, and if you don't properly exercise and take care of them, these dogs demand high maintenance, then they can be a problem. I had a buddy who got attacked by a German Shepherd when we were kids. Thing had to be put down. So my guess is, though, Biden, much like he lashes out at young staffers, was probably lashing out at these dogs, and one of them took a... when he was reaching in.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Civics class is definitely beginning. We want everybody to definitely get in where they fit in. Got a lot to definitely go over. So much to do, so little time. So we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday with Taj Tariq Bey and dealing with the collateral damage. The reason why this is important is because if you listen long enough, you'll understand that all these things that are actually being done, there's a pattern here. So if you want to understand the pattern, you got to understand the players that are involved and what the pattern entails. Keep listening, because if you listen long enough, you definitely will learn something.
Be serious. All of this is not some time off. You're living it. It's going to become more and more clear to you why a lot of things we've been saying to you for the last 40 years. Hopefully, we can all come together, love one another, and try to do that which is good, and particularly forgive each other, forgive yourselves, be firm against that which is wrong, be firm against that which is evil, stop supporting that which is evil, stop consenting to that which you know is a fraud, and that's the least you can do for the children. The least, because you damn sure ain't done much else. Because this stuff has to be paid for. Some can be fixed. Some must be removed from the planet. And that's like for real. And you're going to need strong men and women to handle what you're getting ready to face. You ain't facing nothing yet. This is getting ready to get beyond ugly. Beyond ugly. Don't feel sorry for yourselves, though, because you earned it with your hypocrisy and denying the honor of your ancient mothers and fathers and following after their idol gods of Rome that you knew nothing of. So we're not totally innocent either. Next, Dr. Naila.
Okay. What can we do as a whole, T-Credit Forces, what can we do as a whole or to take action and see it change faster than 50 to 100 years?
The faster you stop supporting Rome and the institutions, and the faster you stop calling these fakers your government, and the faster you stop claiming your labor as income, because this is key. These are keys. I'm only giving you some keys. But this is an example of what's been done on multiple levels, on both the physical and the metaphysical level. And you haven't taken responsibility. Take responsibility to the truth. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Stop the BS and stop pretending you don't understand this stuff. Because society around you is collapsing. The real deal of this, people can keep on acting like they don't comprehend this. Well, guess what? The house is falling down around them. You're not going to send this to another generation. You're not getting this off. This time you ain't getting this off. This is really what you really must understand. This time you're not getting this off. You got this off many other cycles. You ain't getting this off this cycle. Take responsibility. And stop consenting to this BS. And stop supporting institutions and persons of these institutions who have not been telling you the truth, but they're still draining your communities. You can stop that for starters.
Question, what if we want to buy more land? Should we just wait?
You're not buying anything. Well, let's put it this way. Let's get real. There is no buying or selling of land. Land cannot be sold. Let's get that very clear. Everything operating at Midgard is a stewardship situation. Therefore, you're dealing with inheritances that cannot be transferred. Any instrumentality issued by Rome or any subcategory or member of the Roman Curia in the order of deeds and mortgages is de facto, is a fraud, and is not a sale at whatsoever. It is a tax instrument of sharecropping. So anything that you transfer between yourself and them is a fraud, and you're buying nothing. If anything, claim your estate because you're the heirs. Now, who's the heirs? Now you got another issue that has been covered up, don't you? So we have issues that these things have been addressed, but people have not taken them serious. However, that's the call, true heir. So now who's the American? Because the daggone sure into hybrids. And the daggone sure is not the baby eaters. Yeah, they like it rare too. You find out how ugly this thing really is. A lot of you are, put it this way, the fact that some of the stuff that's really been going down is not known by some of you has saved a lot of you mentally. Because many of you, if you knew how ugly this stuff is, you'd crack. Which is also part of their intention. So you're given some of this information to prepare you for what you're going to be smacked with. And it's not comfortable. And what we talk about is really minor. It gets that ugly. However, we understand the rule and the nature law of cause and effect. Even though the demon dragons are strong, they're only strong because you keep feeding them. You know, dragons talk big shit. Well, I'm going to eat your sandwiches and take all your sneaks and everything. And everybody goes, oh, please, take it, not my stuff. You start feeding them that while you start going, I'm taking stuff. You know, big wings and everything, that flame start going out. He's trying to put out your flame, your Christ. You start feeding him, he has only energy because you keep feeding him.
We talked about dark crystal.
Oh, because
dark crystal is such.
It is telling you that they've always told you. This is one thing that hybrid Europeans have always done because they know divine law. Whether they use stories to tell you, fiction books and movies, they tell you to reduce their karmic response. The key is to what? To get the people to keep consenting to them, consenting to their authority. They are great deceivers. Their missionary work is to deceive you. They have no authority. They have no jurisdiction. We keep giving it to them to the point that we're convinced that they have the power. We keep giving it to them. This issue of the income tax is just a perfect example of why they're still in power, because you keep funding them against the law. You keep funding them.
It says right in the paperwork that it's voluntary.
Of course it is, which means consent. And they know it's a fraud. It's like this. Look. What section of the Constitution that all persons that claim any office, clerk, secretary, Congress, representative, councilperson, mayor, governor, president, any position of office, or any contractor dealing with them in relationship to the people must take an oath of office and also sign oaths of ethics, which we will deal with in the future. Document it. So when these people keep pretending they don't understand constitutional obligation and treaty obligation, they're lying. And when you and the so-called leader guys and girls around you keep talking about, well, he didn't really understand this, they're lying too. And because you keep defending a fraud, they've entrenched themselves and they're damaging you and your families to the point that many of you are a paycheck off the curb. Let me tell you something. You ain't seen the horns of these demons yet. You think you have. Stop supporting them. And we know the rule of cause and effect. If we could just get you to stop allowing them to misclassify you. Just declare the honor of your mothers and fathers. Do that much. It will kill the bond system that they sell around the world, which is really what's been happening anyway. But you want to start us moving ahead. Stop feeding the beast. Because his number is 666 and it's the number of a man. They're members of the Roman Curia. They're members of the Circle Church and Chancery. They're called Sadducees and Pharisees, i.e. they're attorneys, attorners, and lawyers. With their helpers or minions known as bishopric, also known as clergymen, standing behind a pulpit, claiming to love Jesus, God, and Allah, and they love themselves. They're just contaminating everything that represents anything divine. They use it because you keep falling for it. They just give you in different flavors. What kind of popsicle y'all want this week? The purple lollipop or the green one? They call it sects. S-E-C-T-S. And also they call it denominations. Oh boy. It's amazing when you really study us and see how willingly naive we have been to the injury of ourselves, our families, and our children. And then we have the nerve to march all over the place, praying all the daggone time, and starting new alphabet soup organizations to deal with rights and never read a constitution or a treaty. And allow these human traffickers to call your labor and your pecuniary wages income, and you sign papers saying that you have income, and you don't, never did. Are you a foreign corporation that made a capital investment in a foreign port and then generated capital assessments, assets, and then you do the percentage of the profit made from that, which is what income is, and income is nothing else? And if you haven't done that, you don't have damn income. If you sign papers and say you have income, you just committed a fraud, and they have a right to your estate. And that's what they've been doing to you. And you keep feeding them. Then you teach it to your family members. Because you don't want the truth. When somebody tells the truth, they try to tell you it's an opinion. I gave you their own documents. So stop pretending you don't know. You want to help your families? Stop that energy stream right there alone. Their bullshit will collapse overnight. They live on your virtues because you keep on letting them. And you keep on violent. You complain about them misrepresenting you, then you sign and misrepresent yourself. Knowingly. Now you know, so don't pretend you don't know. How about doing that? Institute that. Help your family with that. That'll help us move ahead quickly. Because remember, we're in the doo-doo because we keep swimming across the turd pool. Jumping in the cesspool calling, oh, how do you like my backyard pool here? It's a cesspool. Well, we need our own perfume factory. Well, if you stop jumping in the cesspool, you won't need perfume. How about that? It's like you see a bunch of people standing, banging their head on the edge of a brick building talking about, woo, woo. You know, our people need their own aspirin factory. A little child comes along and says, well, if you stop banging your head, you won't even need aspirins. How about that? Marching and praying all over the place, making ourselves fools on our own land. Going to buy your own estate from a foreigner who's occupying you. Under a color of law, color of authority, with a de facto, defunct, and dissolved corporate entity that they lied to you since 1871, told you was a country, and you bought into it. And that's what you're suffering from right now. The ignorance is amazing. While we sit around and talk about gods and devils every 5 minutes and don't even know basic stuff of operations on the planet. It's extremely disgusting, really.
It's frustrating. So many things.
Because even a child could understand. You could present this information to a grade schooler and they can rationalize this. And adults have difficulty putting 2 and 2 together. I think metaphysically 2 and 2 is 3.5 because the religion that I belong to, they start that kind of dizzy stuff. And then they put it on their children. And then get negative results and then blame the devil. And he never did nothing to them. The devil walk around 2 feet.
There's a question about Chief Federal Postal Judge Mark Christopher. Are you familiar with him? The question is whether or not Chief Federal Postal Judge Mark Christopher will be trusted or not. He's the one that comes on from...
Learn to trust yourself. If you understand these principles, know why he speaks the way he speaks. Because basically a lot of people, particularly a lot of Europeans and others, hybrid Europeans, people that are not even direct heirs of this land are speaking how you should have been speaking generations ago. And all your marching, praying leader guys know and should have been talking. The things that they're saying is what we've been telling you for 40 years, even teaching you to write writs in that type of order. You have to do it. You're the heir. Put it this way, if you act like a ward, you will be held as ward.
Yeah, he's a ward. Yeah,
I know, but I'm still saying what is said publicly. Everything should be said publicly. Yeah, but I'm just saying, everything should be said. What he's saying, you should be saying. All of us should be saying. And all of the so-called leaders that keep talking about nationhood and self-determination. Because they know these things, they haven't been teaching it. What they've been doing is lining their pockets and going to the Bahamas with Jesus as half every year. With birth or butt. That's the truth. We need to take responsibility for our irresponsibility. You know what I mean, Dr. Naila? And stop playing victim.
Mo West says, how are we supposed to know all this?
You easily go in yourself because it was in you. Your mom put it in you. We've denied ourselves for so many generations that we think that we can't think. That's what our problem is. Trust you. This is why, a couple months ago we did, self-government. Understanding jurisdiction. We keep believing, we've been trained to keep looking for and believing outside of ourselves. Everything is within. And if they want to accuse or try to use the books anthropomorphically or otherwise, if they want to talk about the anthropomorphic Jesus, then he said all of you are gods. Didn't he tell you that? Mm-hmm. Didn't Prophet Muhammad come to complete the cycles or the works of Jesus? Even though this is anthropomorphic? Mm-hmm. Isn't he his cousin? Distant cousin? Yes?
Yes.
Well, there you go. Get to work, y'all. You know, our concepts, much of what we do and say has been twisted because we've gone along with what things that can be easily proven to be false or misrepresented. And to get along with people or to be liked by people in organized groups and etc., we've accepted things that we knew are misrepresentations that can be proven to be misrepresentations, where we must admit that while over the generations we have taught the forces and powers of nature and cosmology in anthropomorphic form, whether via Jesus, Yeshua, or Muhammad, etc., these are anthropomorphic figures of powers and forces, not so much actual physical men. However, the collateral damage of these things, the anthropomorphic presentments not really honestly being explained to the people, has again caused much of this mental collateral damage that exists now when people are looking at these platforms that have been presented as religion. And therefore, the concepts have been corrupted. That is also collateral damage because the anthropomorphic truths have not been told. We have not rejected them. It's just that they're for children. Grow up and put your childish things aside and stop allowing the human traffickers to take all of the ancient symbolisms and pervert them as symbols of the devils, when in fact, those are scientific and cosmological and geometric symbols of both your body forms, your evolutionary development on both the spiritual and the physical level, etc., and also symbols of character building, etc., and the forces of nature, and are not demonic whatsoever. However, what you have is human traffickers and people with demonic spirits themselves that have taken that which exists in ancient Asia, ancient Africa, and contaminated them and hide behind them for their own good. That's why you must study so that you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Keep that in mind. Because we've been doing that too.
Yeah.
Was there something else too?
Let me see the numbers. Keep those questions coming out. Yeah, let me see. Make sure I can. Let me see the point. In the meantime, could you tell them, we'll share with them this book that I shared with you today?
Oh, yeah.
This is the first one. This is not the one I gave you.
Yeah.
But this is the old one.
Now, this is a book Dr. Naila shared with me. And this book is by Vernon Howard. Yeah. And it's called 1,500 Ways to Escape the Human Jungle. And I just want to read a couple of the statements from the book. And it's clear that Vernon has been studying ancient African philosophy, Sufi philosophy. That means those with the head, with the men who wear the wool, or the woolly-headed ones. So that's your Gnostic wisdom, or your Hermetic law, or what they call Gnosticism, which is the root of all the philosophies of religion on Midgard, in fact. Now, but I'll read a couple of them.
I got one for one.
Yeah.
Let me jump to
Yeah.
this is 1222.
All right, go ahead.
It says, most people react wrongly to rescue. But if you take away my suffering, who will I be?
Yeah.
In other words,
yes.
You know how
they identify with
the suffering.
Now, this is back to what we talked about when most people don't know themselves because they spent most of their lives molding themselves around Job, around the job. Mm-hmm. They're educated. They don't know that their life is molded around work in service to other men who have not their interest in mind or in heart. which is why a lot of people are confused right now because they're trying to get back to a job system that was never normal in the first instance.
Sure. We thought it was.
But we look at that as normal,
right.
and it's been disrupted. But it does show you, what it does expose is the effect of the psychic attacks that have been put on humanity for generations, because this is where a lot of the healing must take place too. You know, for people to really begin to know themselves and to even get to the point of enjoying the fruits of their own labor a little bit. Now, here's another one. And share a few, because I know you had a few good ones that you were going to show. But I want to read the strange facts about the human jungle. Human society is simply men and women pretending that the game of pretense is not going on. 2, humanity appreciates truth about as much as a squirrel appreciates silver. 3, if you think that his or her happy face is a mask covering unhappiness, you are right. What most men call their conscience is imaginary virtue switching left or right according to self-interest. Anyway, this is very good.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're happy to announce that we are offering trustee training and notary classes for all interested parties, Monday through Friday. For more details, please feel free to reach out to us at 904-490-0297. Again, that number is 904-490-0297. We can be reached from the times of 9 to 5 on Monday through Friday, and you can also reach us 12 to 4 on Saturdays. If you can't reach us there on the line, please feel free to drop us an email at B as in boy, I as in Isaac, D as in David, I as in indigo, I as in indigo, L as in Larry, B as in boy, E as in Edward, Y as in yarn at gmail.com. Again, that email is BIDZIILBEY at gmail.com. And remember, if you're interested in getting your affairs in order, you need to start by getting your mind right. Peace and love.
Here's one. 878 in this. It says a conditioned mind can teach right living about as much as a small child can teach astronomy. and most of us do. You know, we have been programmed. They say he's a conditioned.
And if you pay attention, that's what they've done in all the dogmatic religious platforms. They have not really been teaching breathing techniques, which is spirituality, nor the Gnostic philosophies, which is the religion. And they've actually misrepresented their own programming of their dogma sects as religion and has corrupted the world. There you go, collateral damage, which is why many people can't handle this situation that they're faced with now today. Here's another one.
885 says the real solution to social problems cannot be explained to anyone who does not want to hear himself explained. You know, we don't want. We never see ourselves in the picture. It's always what somebody's doing to us, or
so it comes under the category of sheep and wolf.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that comes under give no false rewards. Yeah. Isn't that casting pearls to the swine thing?
Sure.
Because you can see they're all actually Gnostic philosophies. And so, you know, this writer has been clearly studying Hermetic law.
569 is what is called worship or meditation is often nothing but an evasion of personal responsibility for self-awakening.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So
that is true. And
we know this book's gonna sell out. Every time we think about the book, you know,
and for also comfort reading.
But this, you know, when I'm buying something that
this is very
this has got 1,500. That's the first one I got, the old book. That's why. But I gave you a new one. Let me see if there are any more questions, comments.
Yeah, because give you an honest look at yourself. From the nature of how we have been trained to respond to each other. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the insights, gives us a mirror to ourselves and shows how we've been actually molded into this artificiality, that we've been calling the good life because we got a job and ain't got paid, even, thinking that we've been paid. All of these paradigms, false paradigms are collapsing. So humanity must be prepared for a new evolutionary era.
I think each of us individually
has
to prepare because we come in alone
mm-hmm.
and we leave out alone.
Yes.
But it's between, the time between the dash that
mm-hmm.
we interact with everyone else, but each one has to heal him or her own self.
Yes, and you have to be aware of it.
Yeah, you can.
And take responsibility.
Absolutely.
And the psychology, and this is, again, in order for the priesthood to feed on the people, this is why they have created the sacrificial lamb paradigm, which is really not the teachings of Jesus, mm-hmm. the sacrificial lamb type mentality, so they could feed on the people as the people look for this outside savior when the savior is within self. It, as well as mean that they must bear their own cross.
Absolutely.
But they must understand what the cross is. It's not necessarily negative. You get the point. It is really earth navigation. Because that's what it is. It's called the mundane cross.
Okay, that was just a little station break because when I find something that I feel mm-hmm. would be beneficial,
be helpful, yeah.
I want to share that with you. Tariq Sniper Bay, what's the difference between erudite and adept?
Erudite is basically what an adept would be. So education is to draw out, to pull out, right? Erudition is where you more or less become masterful, and an adept is one who masters, or what you would call master's degree, or someone who's a PhD. Essentially, in your different social structures at Midgard, in different organizations matters not. Someone who's a PhD or doctorate of philosophy, that would be an adept. So, like, if you have someone who's like, say, a pastor, a bishop, an imam, a rabbi, a master carpenter, a mason, Eastern Star, Knights Templar, Knights of Columbus, they have different agendas, but all of those would be PhDs. They would be adept. When they have a title, when anyone has a title, they are essentially adept or erudite in the philosophy or the discipline so addressed.
Mine's a THD.
So addressed.
Right. Let me see.
And keep in mind, when you have, and this is also why why people must study, and because that's good, because it leads to other issues. See, once people understand these fundamental rules, right? They know when you see people running around with titles, they're this and they're that, and they got 50 titles, and they have not produced literature or a product, they have no business with that title. And if somebody tell you they're a doctor of this, or they're imam, or they're rabbi, or they're grand sheikh, or they're sheikhs, or they're an adept, and they have not produced literature to be critiqued amongst humanity, they're wrongly holding the title. That's another reason why they've been getting away with misleading people, because they make statements and take positions that they won't put their signature to. Mm-hmm. They call it armchair rulers.
So it says, explain Toshira. Explain those Mongolian. I think Mongolian mixed breeds, Mongolians and mixed. Mongolian mixed breeds.
Let's keep it very simple. It is best described of the human family, truthfully, and because we're talking about linguistic group, but we're also talking about how man has populated the earth. In general, to be safe, with some refined examination the different nations of the earth can be referred to as Berber gypsies. That's a fact. On another level, when you're talking about the Mongolians, who you refer to the Mongolians, you can refer to as the Dravidian or the Naga tribes of Central Africa who crossed the Red Sea, went to the northern part of Asia, and if you would want to examine them, look at the ancient traditional dress and costumes of all of the people of Africa, compare them to all of the people of North Asia, of Phoenicia, Iberian Peninsula that you know as Europe, and you will see absolute cosmological structure and geometric structure, congruency, continuity, similarity, and symbolism, i.e., you're looking at Asia, Africa on the planet, period. So you're just looking at the extended family of Africa. That's what you're looking at. So if you want to be more specific, you just look at it. Look at the Naga of Central Sudan and Nubia. So you're still dealing with ancient Canaanite Moabites. That's all you're dealing with. All of us, and it ain't got a daggone thing to do with religion. It's called pedigree and bloodline.
Nor does it have necessarily to do with the complexion per se.
Skin color. It never did. It never. That whole paradigm is Carlos Linnaeus, 1700s. People keep taking social engineering control systems that were set up by German naturalists like Friedrich Johann Blumenbach, Carlos Linnaeus, and others. And what's the other naturalist? I forget the other naturalists that they always use dealing with the so-called monkey theory. And you can look at that as being adopted into the social operations of the U.S. corporation with their operations at North America, particularly in the Census Bureau, etc. This stuff has nothing to do with the true history of the genealogy of the human family. It is more psychological warfare for creating schismata and divisionisms for the priesthood who chose to make themselves gods over the people, hiding behind Brahma, hiding behind Allah, hiding behind Amalek, hiding behind Yahweh, hiding behind Jesus, etc., which all of these are anthropomorphic expressions of actually the development of the glandular systems, the cosmological impersonation called anthropomorphism, given to structured metaphors, teachings, and mythologies to pass information and preserve information for generations. But in fact, most of these beings in the actual physical form, as taught anthropomorphically, didn't exist the way that people think they do. However, they do exist in the personalities of men and women. Now, that's the truth. Know the difference. Next.
Okay. JL Puckett 40 says, how do I start collecting taxes for my newfound stolen land?
Make more people conscious, because the real deal, all that paradigm is dying. That's part of what's going on now. That's part of what I didn't want to really get into this because I don't want to put things out there.
But people say you said to do this.
No, so because a lot of things will be counted, because some things we're talking about, there's some things we're talking about are actually projections, meaning that if you go up and look at things, right, you're looking at placement of things, and some things are things to come. Some things, if you say, then the dark priesthood will injure certain people to try to stop things. So some things you don't say. But let's say this way. The tax systems, as you've known it, will not be part of the future for humanity. I'll say that much.
And you know, it's very evident how many people are waking up and shaking up the system, the paradigm that we've been.
The system is
because they're working so hard to shut everybody up, to shut everybody down.
Exactly. Because the truth. Remember, when they deplatform people, when they censor people, demonetize people, close people's accounts and stuff like that, is because you're putting a nail in the coffin of the vampire. Remember, if you're making a fool of yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't like you, why don't they just let you make a fool of yourself? Why go through the trouble to try to stop it or to block it, right?
I don't know what this person.
Well, then go to someone else.
No, I'm not. Stanford Jordan looks like an album. But anyway, the question is, what are you talking about? Can't make sense of what you're saying. Are we supposed to read between the lines of your conversation?
Some things.
Yeah.
Yes, some things. Yeah. Some things are for people who have insight. Some things are said in such ways because we know that you have enemies out there that are actually trying to hold the people back. Yeah. And so you give them, you know how you say you don't telegraph blows?
Right.
But those who have eyes to see, those who have ears to hear. Right. And it's for everyone, but it ain't for everyone.
There's another one. LOL, talking in circles, offering no solutions.
Well, fine. You're the solution.
That's right.
Because you're not. You're the solution.
You have to be. Yeah. Unless you are.
One solution is telling you what? Stop paying income tax. Stop misclassifying yourself as generating income when you're not. That's solution. Use it. And stop pretending you don't understand. And stop trying to block information under the guise of trying to be intelligent or helpful.
Yeah, just trying to interject. If you don't understand, doesn't mean it. Naisha Tyler Bay. I'm not even, too much energy going to that ridiculous stuff.
You don't feed it.
Yeah.
See, this is what you do. Knowing when you're helping humanity, right. Know that the opposition is just as strong.
Absolutely.
Know that they've been funded to do so. Know that when you come trying to help humanity, that they have persons that sometimes they call trolls or COINTELPRO, they're already compensated. They can comfortably do this. This is what their job is.
Right.
However, for people who are prepared or want to know the truth, they can see it. They can see it easily. Sometimes you just have to point, just give people notice of things. And what you don't want to do is get the people into that dependency mentality, which is damaging. So you don't tell them that 1 and 1 is 2, 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 4 is 8. You teach them the principle and let them start exercising, because every man, every woman, and even every child must confess their own. It's in the nature of you to know.
Big brother, big brother, big brother. I mean, you could not have said that no better way. Sometimes we can't tell everybody everything because everything is not to be told. I'll give you an example. A lot of times, individuals want you to just be blunt with them, but sometimes you can feel that it ain't that they really want to know what you're saying. It's just that sometimes, for the lack of a better word, they've heard a lot of stuff from a lot of people, so they're challenging you from other aspects of what, the truth is not up for debate. So here's the truth. If you're trying to stand in commerce, you need to be on the right side of commerce. You need to understand the rules. And if you're going to operate dealing with an estate, you're going to operate inside of a trust. And if one of the definitions of a trust is that it's a secret, then all things that are implied. Now, what part of that conversation did you don't understand? Because if you don't understand what we just said, then you need to go back to the beginning of the civics class. Keep listening, because if you listen long enough, you definitely will learn something.
So stop pretending that you don't And stop, and that's that mentality where they keep looking for a sacrificial lamb. Why aren't you being a sacrificial lamb for us? Why are you making us be responsible, just like you are, that we're all supposed to go to the bathroom and use our own toilet paper? We need a Negro toilet paper wiper. No, you don't. You need to wipe your own butt and act like you know.
Excuse me. More into Mark Krishan Christopher is. This is Naisha Tower Day. Mark Krishan Christopher is proposing cryptocurrency will be the new form of currency. What are your thoughts?
It will be a transfer, but I'll tell you this. While the transfer is being made, it's also another way of stealing the people's resources, because in the dimensional world, even though you're going to be thinking on a fifth dimensional level, that means you'll be more awake. However, the gold in accord with the sun, silver in accord with the moon, copper in accord with Venus, cosmology, nature of civilization on the earth, and the contractual rule of substance for substance until humanity on a galactic scale changes the order, that is the money. Absent anything to abstract, if you can't hold it in your hand, you don't have it. Just consider that. Doesn't mean don't do it. But I also know that is what will be taking place, even things along the way of blockchain, as they might call it. This is why transfers are made. But keep in mind, persons who have been losing power are still trying to keep power. Keep in mind, anything that you would call money or monetary, because basically money is moon economics. That's the energy of the moon being closer to the earth, with the satellite of the moon being close to the earth, controlling the moon, controlling the flow of water, etc. And the ecology is what money is. Now, the alchemical energy of the moon is silver. So when you're looking at things that if you want to start securing yourself, you simply got to look at nature. And so that would be today, even though they're talking about gold, silver would be your major breakout. So this would be, now that's not digital. It's not digital. It's not digital. It's not digital. If this is gold. Now, here's bit. Now, I'll show you oxymoron. Just the same oxymoron when they say dollar bill. Bill implies debt. Dollar implies physical Yakimthaler, which means a gold coin. So a coin is a metallic precious. It could be also non-precious metal, but is essentially a metal coin instrument, physical, that is pressed, that has representation by virtue of grams or weights and measure, with a predetermined value system agreed upon in organized honor, agreed social structure. That would be a coin. Anything that's abstract, like digit, that can be punched on a computer and disappear the same way, cannot be a coin. Therefore, Bitcoin is an oxymoron, and a thinker would recognize that. It does not mean that that system is not going to be used as things go through transition. However, don't be fooled. If you notice that every system of Bitcoin that they have initiated since Bitcoin, even the people who have initiated, have you ever met them? It's number one. Number two, the fungibility and the utility would be dependent on the persons who created it. Have you seen utility and fungibility of Bitcoin? Doesn't mean that some people are not going to accept it. As an example, let's put an example. If I transfer this to you right now, can you go in the world and just have fungibility and utility?
Yes.
Why? According to contract law, it is substance for substance. If I say I'm gonna give you a coin, Oh, what kind of coin you give me? A Bitcoin. Can you hand it to me? It can disappear in a second, can it? So if your computer goes down, or they have a server, whatever,
Lose your wallet.
everything goes. Did you notice how often for these last couple of years, have they had Bitcoin, Ethereum, and and Ethereum is broke off from the original Bitcoin. These partners who broke off, and then they split up again, people have invested thousands and thousands, and they said, look, this is worth 50 grand now. Go buy a 50 grand car and see if it works. Does it have fungibility? Does it have utility? Now, it doesn't mean that persons who in a small group who agree to trade will accept it.
Well, it has gotten to the place now where you're able to transfer your wealth onto credit cards. And
now let's look at this.
It has more
gotten to the place.
Right.
No. Go to a restaurant. You've been coming since last year with your family to feed them. And now you can say it's getting to the place that we're going to get some grits and eggs this time. You've been coming to the restaurant for 2 years. It's getting to the place that they're going to give you a meal. At what point do you understand that
the rule? To say it has gotten to the place now where it's now transferable onto.
When a trade instrument has what is known, write these things down because you're going to have to study because you're going to answer your own questions. Fungibility, and utility. If an instrument does not have fungibility and utility, you're getting played. Get over it. However, it doesn't mean that it ain't going to be used. Are we clear? Because that's what got people in trouble already. They don't understand that Bitcoin principle or digital trade has been going on since the 40s. They just turn the public on to rob them of the last of their substance so they can keep control. That's not opinion, that's just a rational mathematical analysis of the instrumentality. That it lacks fungibility and it lacks utility. If it has utility, it doesn't become to be anything. It is tradable immediately. And it does not, you don't go to sleep and it loses value overnight. The same way you don't go to sleep and it triples in value overnight. And then drops all to zero next week. Which means it's unstable, doesn't it? Doesn't it? So like this. If I have a coin, and this is called bit, that means how is the registry of every bit that implies the value when this coin doesn't change, it just fluctuates.
You mean it remains in its...
It remains stable.
Yeah.
Which is why the people are in trouble now. Because they violated the rule. They let some con artist bankers tell them, at least before they gave you a physical fiat, even though they still did the same thing. They fluctuated. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, they have more access. I'll tell you this. It is easier, and it has been practiced among the Circle Church and Chancery members to rob people through credit cards, which is Bitcoin. Still, it's bit. That's Bitcoin. And it's been operating for decades. They just give it a different name. They've been robbed in larger amounts digitally than they ever have been physically, in physical fiat. Meaning that you can wake up tomorrow and someone in East Russia use just information data on you on a credit card and bought a car and a house and took 59 flights. And next year you just find out that they've done that. but yet it is held against you. Whereas, did they reach in your pocket and take 59,000 notes? In other words, answer your own question. That's what I'm saying to you. I'm not denying that it's being used. I'm saying to you, people need to think at all times. Use your intelligence. Abstract disappears. Why? Because it never appeared in the first instance.
J. King said gold and silver are being suppressed. Not good.
That's why.
We still have it. That's why.
No, I'm just saying that's why. They need to understand why they're suppressing it. To maintain the fraud system that's in place, because it can't live with the substance. See, legitimate monetary system, what you call stable, fungible, utility, lawful monetary system, a legal monetary system can't live in the room with lawful monetary system. Why? Because it is fictitious.
So,
How about selling bit air or bit food? Bitcoin or coin. This is a coin. Show me a Bitcoin. Show a Bitcoin. No, you can have one, but now
I can't afford it.
Now, how can a Bitcoin be just this today and this tomorrow and then not this the next day? I mean, you're still investing on value. What they're doing, they're draining your resource on a large scale, on a constant. That's why it keeps what they call splitting. Splitting means they just stole half of it. Duh. I'm not condemning, I'm just saying to use common sense.
How do you acquire the land?
You are the land. Read land in law book. Go to, as an example, ancient and modern jurisprudence, right? Oh, as a matter of fact, what I want to do, just take a minute and read land, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of it, right? Give me a second. And this is back to us being trained to look at things one way when in fact they're actually not what we've been told they were or are, right? Land. Now, land, in the most general sense, comprehends any ground, any soil or earth whatsoever as fields, meadows, pastures, woods, moors, waters, marshes, furzes, and heath. In a more limited sense, land, quote unquote, denotes the quality and the character of the interest or the estate which the tenant may own in land. Land may include any estate or interest in lands, either legal or equitable, easements, incorporeal hereditaments, etc. Land is the one thing, and the estate in land is another thing. For an estate in land is a time in land or land for a time. So technically, land signifies everything which may be holden, and the term is defined as comprehending all things of a permanent and substantial nature, and even of an unsubstantial nature, provided they be permanent. So ordinarily the term is used as descriptive of the subject of ownership and not the ownership. The subject of ownership and not the ownership. right? So land includes not only the soil or the earth, but also things of a permanent nature, affixed thereto, or found therein, whether by nature, as water, trees, grass, herbage, other natural and perennial products, growing crops or trees, minerals under the surface, or by the hand of man, as buildings, fixtures, fences, bridges, as well as works constructed for use of water, such as dikes, canals, etc. So the concepts that when you're looking at land, you're looking at hereditatements, corporal and incorporeal. These things are not taught.
Explain that inheritance.
Hereditatements is all inheritances. So when you have, like, as an example, when you're looking at books that we refer to as, African culture books like the Bible, Quran, stuff like that, right? And it'll say, honor your mothers and fathers that your days may be longer upon the earth land. So that means all inheritance. That means the culture, the customs, the traditions, the physicalities, the furniture, the physical land, things that are on the land, the crops, the renewal of the crops. All of these things is not in the minds of people when they're usually referring to land. Because when they're trained to the misinformation, they're often thinking, oh, I'm going to go down to the city and I saw this sign for this land, this acre of land for sale, and then they get a deed and they think they just bought land when actually that's a sharecropping agreement. The land was not sold, it's not transferred. You will be listed as a tenant because they don't own the land and the land cannot be sold. However, it can be inherited. So this is why the hybrid Europeans occupy our lands, and this is what you call colonial hybrid European hegemony operations that are falsely referred to by mind control systems as racism and prejudice colonial operations in that sense of the word, when it's actually estate theft, including the all capital letters in the 14th Amendment operations, which is also called estate theft. They're stealing the land, and you are the land.
So, but okay, we get that, but there's some folks that really, literally want to.
I know. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah. So
now you're talking about in propria persona, and even to make the stewardess claim, to make a stewardship claim that stands in law,
right.
You cannot transfer business. You cannot claim a land that is not of your nativity, which means that you, as an example, you say if your pedigree and nationality is Chinese, as an example, right? You can't go to Brazil and claim the land. If you're Brazilian, right? They're Canaanite Moabites, right? Can't go to China or Russia and just claim land. Because now you have political jurisdictions for generations. That's what nationality is. It protects what you call territorial inherited land. This is why the constitutions, the structured constitutions of different political jurisdictions, where you have the classification of nationals, citizens, and aliens, these different classifications. As an example, a person or being who may domicile in a territory, and they may be descendant from another nation. They could, what you would call in stewardship, necessarily buy or what they think is buying land, but they will never own land. You cannot. This must be understood. So now with the operations, particularly here in the Western Hemisphere, in the Maghreb, in America, the heirs of land are Americans. The political dynamics that have been taking place is that we've been under hybrid European hegemony operations under unum sanctum and doctrine of discovery, false claims by hybrid Europeans who've been buying and selling land that doesn't belong to them. which is also why all of their operations must be done in what you call feudal deeds, because they can't sell the land. And the people of the land can't sell the land. So when they're making these statements that the Moors / Indians sold land to the hybrid Europeans for a string of beads and stuff, that's BS. That's against the culture. It can't happen. It's BS. So again, these misrepresentations that we have been trained in is also indicative of the collateral damage that's been done to us, and appreciative of those who are trying to help, because clarifying these things will help the next generations to start protecting their estates. And this is why, years ago we did the reversion of estate issues to make the distinction between the true heirs of the land and also the corporate fiction persons claiming the estates and the lands that are not theirs under unum sanctum and doctrine of discovery operations, again, which is, again, the collateral damage that we're suffering today. Now, what we would be looking at in our operations, basically, in satisfying the question beforehand, would be what is called allodial claims being made. And this is where the people collectively nationalize and simply nationalize the land, claim the land. You can't buy it. You claim it. It's yours. It's all, you inherited it.
Do you have to be tied to that specific land, that particular patch of land?
Now here we go to, now you understand what nationhoods are. Now you also understand around the world what's also been happening, as an example for people to comprehend the references of hereditamates. As an example, when the hybrid Europeans invaded Isabella. Now, Isabella is known to most of you as Cuba. The hybrid Europeans were doing what they usually do when they go around the world, traffic children and stuff. And they were trafficking the little girls and stuff like that. They had little whorehouses for the preachers and the congressmen and the senators. And they had, from operating from the United States Corporation Company, and they had like casinos and brothels and a whole bunch of other stuff. And the women came out to protect their children, was fighting them literally with sticks and stones to protect their children from U.S. corporation operatives. They were murdering women and children in the street, etc. And the information was getting out that you see getting out right now with them stealing children, taking them to islands and stuff like that, and doing all kinds of stuff to them. And Fidel Castro was actually trained in Texas as a double agent. And one of the Roman Curia member despot plants name was Batista. And he was running Cuba for the hybrid Europeans, to traffic the little girls and stuff like that. And to block the information from getting out. So let's not look at this Epstein thing as new. This ain't new. They murdered a lot of the women, killed some of the children, and Fidel Castro says, you ain't got to go home, but your asses are leaving here. That's called nationalization. So, and not unlike Adolf Hitler did in Germany when some people were raping Germany economically, and he declared, he nationalized Germany and said, all who are not German, go home. Castro said, all who are not Cuban, go home. The brother, I forget his name, I forgot the premier's name, from Argentina, recently had done the same thing. This is again why the hybrid Europeans were did that Falkland War, as you all do some research on Falkland Island War, where they were coming there to claim their continued occupation. And the president of Argentina nationalized. Also, Vicente Fox, you do some research with the United Nations when they presented Bill Clinton as the American president. Notice that the phrase, the American president, and Vicente Fox objected. He says, he's the president of the United States. He's not the president of America. America is a continent, and you have many presidents of the different jurisdictions of America. This is another corruption that must be clarified with our people here. And of course, people who have been living off the virtue of our people don't want these things presented to the people. And this is another reason why we're talking about collateral damage. So it's important for us, who are the real people of the land, the real Americans, to declare our nationality and declare our estates. Because keep in mind, the operatives of the de facto United States corporation, one of the major capacities or abilities of them to continue to sell other nations the treasury bonds that they set up in 1861, 1862, which you'll check out in the congressional records, etc., and in the House journals, was because our people agreed to be Indians, Negroes, black and colored, people of color type things, which took us out of the treaty obligations that already exist prior to the adoption from the Honesty Confederation, the fatwa principles of the Constitution for the United States. And this is another reason why it's important for the people to nationalize and claim their estate, etc. So the nationalization is used around the world on the planet, which is the point being made, for the proper heirs of all political jurisdictions to have their inheritances and their resources preserved from generation to generation. So it's not just the principle of buying and selling. No, that does not suffice in law, for a claim of reversion of estate supersedes any deed or mortgage claim, etc. This is again why persons who've been pretending to be government and persons who've been pretending nation this, nation that, nation that, nation this, do not teach that prior to 1913 all land was held in aboriginal title or allodial title, because they don't want you to know that. So when they talk about the Jekyll Island thing, they always talk about, well, it ain't no money and all this sort of stuff. And they don't tell you that they abridged the issue of consular venues of diversity, of nationality, distinguishing nationals of the land from corporate citizens and or aliens under the Naturalization Act, which is also why after Ulysses Grant came into power, after Lincoln, etc., they changed up the Naturalization Act and start calling the hybrid Europeans white people, with the Whigamo party split, and then they start claiming to be Americans when indeed they in fact are not. And they've been robbing our land under the name of American and the name of unum sanctum and the doctrine of discovery, creating all this collateral damage that we're suffering from now. Therefore, declare your nationality, declare your land. The more the people become conscious and it becomes normal for them just being themselves, the corruption will just fall away, because it only lives because the people aren't aware of their lost estate.
Okay, Funk Boogie says, asks, what about if a person has a felony, then they nationalize?
That does not remove the fact that your birthright is not lost. It's because there was some felony.
Yeah. Okay, because they still have the same rights as others.
Hold on. Not just that. Who charged you with felony? And what was the felony? And was the person who charged your felony, were you before a jury of nationals of your own peers? Did you have due process? And was the persons who charged you have any sovereign right by law to exercise under quo warranto an exercise of a court to make that claim against you in the first place? And if you were charged of a felony, state the consular venue upon that was entered in the jurisdiction from which the charge was made and solidified by both parties of the jurisdiction. And I suggest that did not take place. Therefore, I also suggest that the claim of you being a felon of any damn thing is a fraud. And it doesn't mean that you didn't create or that you didn't do an injury. Do you understand? But if you lack due process, the claim is fraud. However, even if it stood, it doesn't steal your birthright. Keep that in mind. Birthright's intact.
Okay, Pasha XZGL says, what happened to all these Asian assassins that are supposed to assist in wars and the recovery of our estates? Quoted from Grand Sheik Kashmir.
That would be a good question. When you look at all of our people, now let's look at our family members. How many are family members that you can look back that went to the Vietnam War, Korean War, Panama?
Asian assassins?
We Asiatics.
Okay.
We're Africans, Asiatics. We're Asiatics. Which means, this is what I'm saying is, a lot of people that want to help us have a problem with us insisting on being black and insist on going to and fro the earth, devouring our own brothers and sisters, helping this hybrid fake European conquer other nations and then looking for them to come help us. Use your common sense and then ask where they are, and then ask again in consideration some of the forgiving work that needs to be done on multiple fronts, and recognize that we have not been in honor. However, we're trying to get there now, aren't we? The sooner we do, the sooner the world come to our aid. They've been coming to our aid anyway, it's just that our people don't recognize it now. They don't recognize a lot of the politics, the economic killing of U.S. Treasury bonds is also the rest of the world coming to our aid. Because all war is not hot fire.
Someone says, why not? I think I saw it says, is this considered publication? I'm not sure if they're asking what we're doing, what you're doing right now is considered publication. Maybe it's a question, maybe it's a response to something else. So it says, why not open an Aboriginal, Lance Ross L., why not open an Aboriginal title company?
Good. Haven't we been doing it for everybody else? You know, it's like, you know, and when these things come to you, it shows you the assignments that the ancestors are presenting to us. You see? Mm-hmm. So, you know, like, it's sort of like when ideas come to you, it shows you that nature is telling us what our jobs are. And again, you know, like we talk very often, Dr. Naila, if our people put as much effort in to bringing remedies to the problems that we have as we have been to doing mosque, church, and synagogues, etc., half these social, political, and spiritual problems that exist among us wouldn't exist. They would have been cured. Right. But we have neglected our civilization responsibilities, referred to as civics, and therefore we have been incompetent in areas where we're often seeking remedy. You know what I mean? But that's an observation of the collateral damage.
Okay. Mercedes Dickinson says Castro's nationalization of Cuba was a strategic move, as he is a descendant of Pope Innocent III.
That is true.
Research finding of law.
That is true.
Yeah.
And isn't it back to the fact that members of the Roman Curia and that the Unum Sanctum and Doctrine of Discovery operations have been contaminating, at least 90% of the world, which we said earlier. We're aware of that. However, in the conversation, we were talking about the principle of nationalization, its political application.
Troy said, what is birthright?
Birthright is that which is divine is not legislated. It's not in ens legis. It is by divine of your physical and actual existence coming from the womb of your mother. Those are the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that are expressed in documents, but are actually philosophical Sunni principles, etc., dealing with nature's law, nature's God, distinguished from legislated things, and thus are related to what is usually referred to as unalienable rights, which means no lien can be placed upon them because you can't buy it. This is why, or you'll hear statements like Noble Drawley says nationality is free.
Khalifa Javed Bey, he says our people would stop using fiat, but no one is revealing to our people after they nationalize the lawful way to live off the trust. Too many unlawful wrong processes are being taught.
And look at this. This is the point. The fact that you're moving in the direction of trust is a learning process because we've been out of the loop of structured government for quite some time. All structured government are absolutely operating in the venues of trust in the state. Now, I'm not defending anything or anyone that's misrepresenting anything. However, all of our people should learn trust law because it's how government operates. And the offices that are held are called offices of trust. Therefore, fundamentals of trust should have been taught to all of the people. And now that's distinguished from someone misrepresenting anything, if you get the whole point. And my view on this is people who have been held outside of government structure for generations, some and many being on a learning curve, are going to try different methodologies for cure. Some will be not correct, some will be flawed. But the fact that the people are being made cognizant of it, this is where we should exercise our five senses and make those corrections. So if one identifies something that someone is doing incorrectly, then that's your position to interject. And because if you identify as wrong, then that means you know what's right.
Right.
And so interject that and then do your part to make things better for our people.
Makes sense. Asa Seymour Day says, asks, what is so significant about Florida for Trump to move here? I guess
Florida, everybody knows that Florida is the land of flowers. The hybrid Europeans always call Florida, or the land of flowers, the land of milk and honey, or the fountain of youth. Yes, because we always had the exotic plants that you can find in all areas in the land of flowers. Also, at the tip of land of flowers, you have the experience of the tropics, the clear waters. You have a clear jumping port, and there's also, people are not aware of it, but there was also a bridge that's actually under the water.
Land bridge.
Yeah, a land bridge that actually goes from there, from Florida, on the other side, and also to the South Gate. So Florida has always been a strategic land area, and a jump-off port for world trade too.
Would it have anything also to do with the fact that the governor there is a Republican governor and open to?
Well, you can look at that as more of a modern iteration. Well, let's look at it more in the context of its actual strategic. And then you have a lot of the Shakuns of the Elis Moors and Seminole were in that area too, with the Powhatani
Confederation. What would that have to do with Trump moving there? Well, he has to borrow a lot
of the hybrid Europeans was taken over that area because of its lush agricultural land and strategic location. and generally pleasant yearly atmosphere. Generally, that's the major reason, because it's a beautiful place to live.
It would snow and crazy.
Yeah.
DeMarcus Harris L. I don't know where they've done something, but they said we have been seeing a lot of extraterrestrial beings in the sky lately. Is an invasion coming soon?
Put it this way, there's never been a time that we haven't been dealing with them, so there's nothing soon. You can look at things from a point of whether or not certain interactions will be reinitiated that have been blocked previously for some time. Part of it being because our necessarily evolutionary development and regeneration and preparation for extended reintroduction to what you would call a broader range of inner and outer terrestrial operations, meaning that a little more civilizing needed to be done here. Meaning we had a lot of broken souls here.
So, King Wicks put a quote here from Ho Chi Minh: "If we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other."
That's the point. There we go. That's back to the Berber triptych.
We are
Berber gypsies.
Yeah.
See, just like as an example, we've allowed the hybrids to tell us that the Chinese, i.e., came here to the Maghreb to help build the railroads after the hybrid Europeans, 1492 came here and took over from the Moors and stuff like that, when actually the Tianyi or the Manchurians, etc., have been here with us for thousands of years. Our concepts about a lot of things are wrong.
Khalifa L. said that Nobru Ali said our brothers from the East would help us. Please explain.
All right, he says, the time will come and you'll be walking down the street and you'll see a $20 bill on the pavement and won't waste your time to bend over and pick it up. Industry will come to a screeching halt.
Wow.
But when it starts up again, it will start up in favor of the Asiatics. Look at that and answer your question.
So, did he also say that they would help? They would teach.
They've already been doing it. Remember, it is not new news, but we've been telling people for quite some time, for years and years and years, that the Asiatic world would stop buying the U.S. Treasury bond, which has been used since the 1860s, as a foundation for the operations of the United States Corporation Company, which has been promoted falsely as the country since the country has been conquered. When the world stops buying the U.S. Treasury bond, which is really human stock instruments and bottomry instruments, that their economic system of human traffic would be interrupted and you would start having a feedback loop. And we re-emphasize that particularly in these last 7 or 8 years, and what you see is that manifesting right now. As Asia and Africa, and you might have heard these terms, this acronym called BRICS nation as an example, and that's not the only one. Those are those operations. By default of those operations, by both goodwill and also by cause and effect consequence, the U.S. corporation is being dismantled. By virtue of that, the estate of the Moors is being released. Among us are men and women who want to help and are doing what they can, putting their necks on the line to help fallen humanity, and this includes even some of the hybrid sons and daughters of hybrid Europe, to bring remedy. And as the Prophet Noble Ali said, in relationship to the Moorish Divine and National Movement, he made a statement along this lines. He said, "Help me in my great missionary work to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States of America." He's talking about the Honesty Confederation rules, not the concepts that you see or what they've been telling you about John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, James Barkley as an agent in business. They're talking about the rule of the principles of Constitution principles, not just with the allodial principles of recognition of human rights, etc., but also the Constitution of the salts and the phosphates and the foodstuffs that are harmonic with the constitution of the body, in harmony with fatwa and Moorish customs and principles. And in a statement, metaphor, it would be said, "Turn your hearts back to your mothers and fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse." And this is what you're seeing now.
Here's a Sugar One says, how important is discussing Traficant's statement on the U.S. Chapter 11 to our youth to understand the current state of play with the global politics?
The importance of it is because when you're looking at the House Journal records, you'll see that when you're people like yourself and others who have been trying to help our people comprehend that the United States is a private corporation that's bankrupt, that they have been trained is the country, that's what's important. Meaning that their own records show that the whole platform of their operations is a fraud, and that the United States is a corporation and not the country. See, because that mysticism and misrepresentation must be removed from the minds of the people, because for years you can tell the people de facto platforms to distinguish and make discernment from de jure. And they'll look at it and turn around and ask questions that indicate that they don't comprehend what you just said. The Traficant excerpts from his speech on the floor of the House, because actually he was talking also about James McFadden, which you will not see included in that immediate record, but that's what he's making reference to, because you already know they murdered James McFadden when he went to visit his daughter in New York.
I thought it was Traficant.
No, Traficant's speech is reference to that, although when you know the history, though it's not that. And so that's what makes Traficant's speech important, because it tells a lot. It even tells you that prior to 1913, all the property was held in allodial title. So even as you already know, when our people are talking about land grants, buying and selling land, and you refer to them to Aboriginal titles and allodial titles, and most of them not only are not familiar, but won't even know what you're talking about. But yet they're talking about estate transfers. And so with Traficant's speech before the House of Representatives, it reveals a lot, including the fact that exposing the fact that the United States is operating in name only shows you again that they're de facto and that they're actually a criminal operation. Now let's think about as an example. Can you think of any of your recent, say, corporate entities and malls across the country that went bankrupt and that are closed? You got these big, beautiful buildings closed now with roofs leaking. Now, do you expect to go in, walk into one of the malls and see a thriving, say, a sneak store in the middle of the place, or them having a food court in the middle of there? They're bankrupt. They're defunct. They have no business operating. This is the same thing that's going on with the United States Corporation Company now, which is also why they got barbed wire around the White House. It's the very same thing, but people don't know what they're looking at. They're defunct. They're bankrupt. They had no business operating, but they've been operating, haven't they? Now, so they're creating criminal acts against the people, and they're making rules against the people that's causing injury, aren't they? But the people need to know that these people are organized criminals. The fact that the people in general aren't aware of that, they still think these people are government officials for them to vote for, is problematic. You see? The Traficant letter exposes that too. This is again why they killed him and pretended that his tractor rolled over on him.
One more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
From Victor Oluwatobi, does the Moore law apply to people in Africa, as we have a lot of Europeans?
Africans are Moors.
No, they said they have a lot of Europeans and Chinese in Africa. He's in South Africa. They wants to know, does it apply, I guess, when it comes to Europeans, Chinese being there in Africa, like it does here?
See, this is what must be understood. North America is Northwest Africa. Central America is Old Mexum, known as Olmec. South America, Southwest Africa. Asia Sol on the east side is known today as Africa. So when you're talking about the Moorish Empire, you're talking about Africa, continent as you know it now, across the Great Atlantis, even to North, Central, South America, including Mexico, which you'll see in chapter 47 of your Circle 7 Quran. And so when you're talking about the conquest of the Moors, you're talking about all the Mandinka and Bantu, Berber tribes and linguistic groups collectively are Moors. Now, when you're talking about political jurisdictions, you're having some political jurisdictions that are still intact, even though we've been occupied by hybrid Europeans. And then you have some that have been distorted, most of which are in the Western Hemisphere, which is known, as you know, as the Maghreb, Morocco, the most extreme West. So therefore, the same treaties, etc., and rules that govern the planet, and even the operations of Unum Sanctum and the Doctrine of Discovery that cause all this collateral damage, is on both sides because we all are one people. Anyway, thank you all for sharing with us here at the House of Reawakening Minds. Please support the House of Reawakening Minds because it's in place to support you.
I want to just add something. We have over 1,500 people on the live stream. I think between our two sites, we had about 15 people give something. So I want to say that out of the rest of you all, hopefully you all will see fit in your heart to get us above $130 and support what we're doing to keep it going. We do appreciate you so much. And Grand Sheik, gives out of his heart. I know everyone doesn't agree with everything, that you say all the time. And, I look at some of the comments, but I know you're not bothered by the negative and so forth.
Yeah, use it as fuel.
Yeah, so we're just doing what it is as Grand Sheik always said, he's doing what his mother sent him here to do.
Yep.
And I suppose I'm doing the same thing.
And and this is the suggestion. Since we're all allegedly trying to help our people, where you see weaknesses, introduce your strengths.
Right.
Where you see trash on the pavement, let's not talk about the program of trash picking up. Bend over and pick that trash up.
Absolutely.
And understand every one of us have the responsibility to contribute to the uplifting of fallen humanity. It is not done. This is not the age of follow the leader type thing. It is the age for all of us to take our places among the affairs of men and to come together harmonically, recognize that the positions that we have found ourselves in to the negative has been because most of us have sat on our butts waiting for everyone else to do the work. And we sit back and armchair judge them rather than contribute to the work that's necessary for all of us.
Absolutely. We appreciate you. I just want